this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Shit is hella weird. And as soon as I told him, chaos broke out.
Real life.
It ain't real life. Just a real life street star. You know what time it is.
Big, Diddy left a bunch of ketamine, right? Like the most I've ever seen. Like I'm talking about bricks. I don't know what it'd be for CJ and Willie and for us to have a good time while we're, making music and house music and everything else. And then he's out. 2 days later, we're back at the house and we go to this rave, this famous DJ named Carl Cox, just me and Sarah. And, we drop ecstasy, it's a rave, psychedelics. We come back to the house and I tell her, I'm like, yo, the weirdest thing happened. And I'm tripping. I get real emotional about it. And then she opens up to me and she says that she used to work with Diddy 10 years ago because at that time she was 32. When she was 22, she used to, do private events for Diddy in London, in Tulum, and Ibiza and Brooklyn and Miami and New York. And she was just like, like cocktail serving. But obviously, it was probably more knowing, about her past now. So I tell her, she's like, just don't say anything. I'm sorry. Let's just keep the project going. It's not, it's not a big deal. Keep it moving. So that's what we did. Is because, I had invested already in the project. I'd already done all this stuff. It's about Biggie, not, Diddy's whack shit. So I didn't say anything to anybody and, kept the project going. Right. So the pandemic gets in full swing and we released the first single, Big Papa. And that goes on like Rolling Stone and Spin Magazine. Me and CJ Wallace redoing his, dad stuff. And, Diddy was like really like, controlling over what the music was going to be, what the vibe was going to be. Cause being totally objective, that is his artist. Right. So,
right.
The project gets weird. That happens. And where, the project is buzzing, I'm, put it to the side. And on the second attack, the real attack that happened is what happened in, a year later, which is in the lawsuit, which is they picked me up. So first of all, I finally came clean to CJ and Willie. Well, I came clean to CJ. I was like, bro, this is weird, bro. This is like, this is what happened. Like this guy nutted in your dad's shirt. He threw it on me. I just felt like I needed to tell you that because right before that, sorry, I'm all over the place, but when Biggie was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in November, it starts off with Puff Daddy, and he's talking about obviously inducting Biggie into the Hall of Fame. And then it closes with Biggie's son, CJ Wallace, Biggie's rock and roll thing. So I didn't want to say anything to CJ until after his dad was inducted to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I knew I was going to. So I waited until after that moment. So that's why I waited until early of 2021. And I go back out to LA and that's when I tell CJ. And I also tell him that Willie's acting hella weird because they wanted to make the project like super gay, right? They wanted to meet Frank White meets Frankie Knuckles, and they want it to be all inclusive, you know, trans, LGBT, you know, all this stuff that they want to include. CJ and Willie, as I said in one of your interviews, they were like a thing. They were like, you know, boyfriend and boyfriend. But Willie was also doing some extra like weird shit with me, and which I've talked about in some of the other interviews. And so I let CJ know, like, bro, this is what's going on. This is what's happening. Shit is hella weird. And as soon as I told him, chaos broke out. Right. And they're like, we're canceling the project. And here I am out in LA. And, you know, so I was a little shocked. Well, then CJ calls me back a few weeks later, and he says, listen, man, I got Willie with me. We want to get together with you. The project is back on. We're going to pick you up, and we're going to film you for Revolt. And we're going to, the three of us are going to talk about the project, and we're going to get it going back in full steam. So I was like, hell yeah. Willie like apologized to me over the phone, said he didn't know. He thought I was gay, even though I was with my girlfriend, even though I've never, you know, whatever. Because, you know, I just like weird or whatever. So he was like, you know, basically I misread the room. So they picked me up, and that's what it says in the lawsuit. And they took me to a Revolt affiliated house. Right. So in the ride over there, it doesn't feel like it's just me in the back seat, CJ and Willie. It didn't feel like, you know, the band's getting back together. We went through a fight. It just felt very, very weird. We pulled up to this White House, and when we're walking in, we start to walk into the house. And immediately when I walked into the house, I knew something was weird. There was Biggie stuff everywhere, like, you know, like all Biggie's like posters and like artwork and bad boy shit and everything else. And so these two of Puffy's, and I saw CJ's brother. His name is Josh Rousseau. That's Faith Evans' other son. It's CJ's half brother. You know, Faith has two sons, CJ and Josh. I saw him. He didn't even really like acknowledge me like he normally does. So I was like, okay, this is weird. These two dudes come over, and they put this like COVID, this like one of those weird like COVID masks where they used to have like the not like the regular that people would wear, like the full face that people would wear. They're like pulling it over and like, yo, this head's so big, you know, pulling over the. That's what it felt like. At first, I thought it was like a COVID mask, but it was some kind of you know, thing, and it's like covering. They get it to like my stuff, but I could still see like the floor and stuff under my eyes. They pushed me back into this room, and like there's this like ottoman. I fall in the back of the chair, and then you know, Diddy's comes in, and I could, you know, hear his voice. I could see his feet, and I'm like trying to look up, you know, through these little cracks, you know, like what's going on. He's like, you know, you know, you don't deserve Biggie Smalls. You don't deserve, you know, to be with the Biggie estate. You know, he's just going on and on and on and on and on, you know, right? And you know, like sitting there like tripped out because I was in a home invasion, you know, 2 years prior to that.
Right.
And next thing you know, Diddy is like putting his dick in my mouth, and you know, I'm like, he's grabbing my head, you know, and he's like grabbing the back of my head and like my face type shit. And I thought for sure that I was going to die at that point because he was angry and yelling. And after all that like ended, CJ and Willie come in the room, and I could tell that CJ was surprised, maybe. I don't know. But he obviously set it up, and then he was like, bro, just smoke this blunt. And like, I just had Diddy stick in my mouth doing his share a blunt, right? Like, I was like, bro, I just want to go. I want to go. And they drive me back to my hotel, and that was it. That was the last that I saw them. And I go back to all places, Dallas, right? Because I had people in Dallas, and I stayed at the Statler Hotel. I lived at the Statler Hotel for like 3 months, and I would just stay in my room and just processing and traumatized. And then I started getting angry. Then I started contacting Faith, and then I started contacting, CJ's, who he calls his dad by the name of Todd Rousseau, Faith Evans' ex-husband, and telling him about, all the that was going on. I reached out to VlOLATED. I reached out to everybody, and I'm just so pissed off. I was just, totally like, taken advantage of and everything else. And I just snapped. And, they made all these threats and everything else. I tried to get the police involved then. This is before Diddy's arrested, and nobody like took it serious. I reached out to Cassie's law firm, Wigdor Law Firm, in 2023, and they wanted to meet with me. But as I was, going to go over to their firm, this is before Cassie came out with their lawsuit and everything else. And obviously there's email records, and obviously this is in discovery and everything else. Driving through Brooklyn and seeing all the Biggie murals and seeing all the Biggie shit and all the Biggie stuff, like I was like, nah, man, I can't even do this. And just like I started losing projects, I felt blacklisted. I didn't feel blacklisted. I was blacklisted. That project was canceled, which led to my distributor to asking questions, and it just caused like all this turmoil, So then I went out of Brooklyn. I moved to, with my girl in Inwood, Washington Heights area, of New York. And I know I jumped around a little bit from, I left Dallas and went to New York. But there was just a lot of shit that happened like in between. Like one of the guys, because we were filming a documentary on the making of this Biggie House album. And we were doing a lot of that in Dallas, Texas. And I just, I didn't have the strength anymore. Everything was done. So all my friends were like, what happened to the Biggie project? Well, this guy that was close to CJ and Willie that I met in Dallas, I went to get some Percocets, and I got some Percocets. I took one, my girl took the other, and next thing I know, she's like collapsed on me, and I tried to revive her. I couldn't. The police and ambulance came. I was so off a Percocet that I didn't even know my address, so I had to go like across the hall. It's like, what address? Where am I? What's the address? I couldn't think. So anyway, she goes to the hospital. They didn't take me with her. And, you know, obviously that was fentanyl. So I was that was the thing, is like, all right, I got to get the out of Dallas, right? Because this was just trying to make look like a, you know, a drug overdose or something like that, you know? So that's what happened with that. And when in 2023, when Cassie's lawsuit came out and I saw who reported it, this investigative journalist by the name of Cheyenne Roundtree, who worked for the Rolling Stone, I reached out to her and I said, I've been through incidents with Diddy myself. And so she wanted to speak to me and she was like, would you be comfortable going on record? I was like, no, I just want to, you know, just explain to this. And this is in 2023. And she was like, you know, there's a different producer who's told some of the same stories that you've told. And then Cassie's lawsuit it's like pandemonium. Everybody's coming out saying all this shit about Diddy. And then, you know, there's the raid and then he's arrested. And then once he got arrested, that's when I started doing like these interviews and stuff because I felt safe and I was so pissed off. So that's why I would come on your show and I would just diss everybody because, you know, everybody, you know, for, you know, letting that happen to me, especially Biggie's son, because they knew that in 2017 that I was in a home invasion. They knew that I was duct taped with my daughter. They knew the trauma was going to happen.
Shout out Reallyfe Street Starz, nigga. Move. Hey.